This is the second episode or second segment of the conversation on population growth in Uganda and its impact on the real estate sector. My panelists once again, Fiona Sasira, who is the Vice President of the Uganda Environmental Impact Assessment Group, Mr. Edgar Niimha, Principal Statistician, Uganda Bureau of Statistics, and Mr. Anatoly Kamujisha, MD or Managing Director, Arkwright Projects. Edgar, picking up from where we left off the last time, Mr. Kamujisha pointed out a very valid point that he doesn't feel that there is enough data to support the private sector developers to be able to plan or tailor-make products to suit where that demand is coming from. How do you think you can better support, once again, the private developer in getting information that will enable them address the housing gaps, affordability, house type, and location of where this should go? And please, let's also speak about not only Kampala, because there's other cities now. So how far is your reach into the districts or the new cities that have been formulated? And how can you really support, to try and, if not for anything, mitigate the urbanization or the urban rural migration that is happening by providing a semblance of basic amenities and infrastructure in the newly formed cities to try and minimize or mitigate the pressure on Kampala?
Thank you, Judy. UBOS has gone a long way in generating or providing data to address the sustainable development goals. We have data on most of the indicators, I must say. However, like he hinted, we have some limitations, especially on goal 11, something to do with sustainable cities. There is an indicator on the proportion of people who are in informal settlements or have inadequate housing, something like that, or proportion of people who live in urban slums. We are yet to have data on that indicator, and I believe it's more important to the private sector, and UBOS is working hand in hand with the Ministry of Housing to make sure, like I mentioned, one of the cardinal roles of UBOS is to build capacity. Some of these ministries and departments don't even have statistics departments. So it's upon UBOS as chief statisticians to now build capacity so that these ministries and departments are able to produce some of these statistics for us to have complete indicators that address the SDGs. About the other information that we have that can help the private sector, we do compare the residential property price index. It's a quarterly index, but currently covering the greater Kampala metropolitan area. We hope to roll it out across all the cities in Uganda. What this property index shows you gives you the movement of prices across the different strata in the greater Kampala metropolitan area. We have Nakawa, we have Kawempe, we have Rubaga, we have Machindia and Kampala Central. So if the inflation is up, or if the index or the price levels are up, an investor is able to know that prices in this area are high, maybe I will not invest there, or a seller will know since prices in this particular area are high, then I am better off going to this other area to purchase a property. So that information is there, it's available and can be accessed through the website. And if a person wants a personal tailored request, you can still avail this information. But the residential property price index on a quarterly basis is there. We have it at the Uganda Bureau of Statistics.
Thank you very much, Edgar. So, Mr. Kamujisha, with this information there, like we said, clearly the best way to address the housing shortage is to build to scale, and to build affordably or cheaply, and to do it quickly, because the demand is now and we need to address the housing shortage now. So has the private, or how far has the private sector tried to adopt modern technology in addressing these housing needs? Because that's really the only way we're going to manage to scale up quickly and be able to respond to this demand.
Well, according to maybe according to the
And I'm talking about building technology.
Building technology that are available today is that many people are still inclined to the old system of building. We are using this brick and mortar, and they have loved it so much, and they believed it so much that a new technology finds it a bit difficult, and at the same time, even the approval of a new technology here also becomes another problem, because most of the people that approve those kind of technologies find it difficult, and so you as a pioneer who is bringing a new technology find it a bit of a problem. But however, there's a lot of technologies all over the world that are coming up, making housing affordable in a way of you running away from brick and mortar, which usually maybe like the prefab is the only way, is one of the ways that can make it cheaper, where you assemble, you manufacture a building, and then you come and assemble it, meaning that you are making it very easy and even quick, because a house to be cheap, to be affordable, time also matters. If you build a house within maybe in 2 months, is different from if somebody is building a house for 1 year, because the cost, if you build it for a long time, so the time matters, it also adds as a cost. But if you can build it in a shortest possible time, then it means the house will be somehow affordable. And also, another thing is about, of course, the kind of, what I'm trying to say, if there were just a proper, a coordinated, a master physical development plan, it is the one that exposes what we call the hidden resources to be available, so that you can be able to use them at that. But because there is no that kind of coordinated or a proper master physical development plan, so you find where the housing could be cheap, it becomes very costly, because maybe it was planned for something else, and yet for you are bringing in something different. So at the end of the day, you get up. Take an example. You find that the landscape, there is a top, there is a slope, and then there is a valley. And you find that maybe you are putting up a structure in the valley, and then when you are putting in the valley, it has a lot of problems in terms of creating a strong base. But also when you are putting up a house on top of the hill, it also has, you find the cost is a bit lower. And when you are putting a house on the cliff, then definitely it becomes worse, it becomes very expensive, because you have to play with the levels in order to reach at the. So you find the land, how it is planned, matters a lot on where you are going to put such a kind of houses. So the kind of technology now that is available is that can make a house affordable, is to make sure that we run away from horizontal development and we go into the vertical development. Why am I saying so? Because if you are putting up a horizontal development, meaning that every house will stand out by itself, meaning that one unit is going to have its own water, its own service pole, its own sewer system, its own access road. But if you are making it a vertical development, it meaning that you can put one structure and you can put about 10 units that can serve about 10 people than serving one person. And also when we are building, what would be the roof of the first floor becomes a base or a foundation for the second floor. So you keep on saving, and even a wall to a wall, you also they share, and then it brings now the cost affordable, because in a flat of about 3 bedroom is cheap. You find it cheaper than putting up a 3 bedroom standout unit of its own. So that's why to be able to arrive at affordable homes, we must go vertical, and then we must go by the current technology of using prefab, and other technologies are coming up of just of playing up even with timber. You can also put up a structure using timber. Likewise, and also even the concrete is somehow there is where you can cast your where you can cast a prefab out of what you call cast in situ, which you produce it in a certain factory and you come and they assemble it. And also now Chinese are doing it and it's cheaper. You find that per square meter, maybe let me 20 square meters, you find it's about 3,500 per square meter. But when we are building up using our ordinary kind of stuff, you find that 20 square meters is more than that, it's double. So now that technology is going to make the houses just affordable. So with as real estate, I'm seeing that there is a lot, because many people are going into the real estate and they are doing it professionally, being able to use such a kind of technology, such they can be able to address such a kind of thing. So the affordability of houses is going to be available. It's going to be very possible. And more especially if government comes on board and supports it and we work as a team, as partners. That's when we shall be able to realize affordable home. Because it's very, very difficult to get affordable home if you are working in a staccato manner, or independently.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kamujisha. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to our commercial break right now. We will be back in a few minutes, so please don't go away. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Introducing my panelists again, Fiona Sasira, Vice President, Environmental Impact Assessment Group, Mr. Edgar Neema, Principal Statistician, UBOS, and Mr. Anatoly Kamujisha, MD, Arkwright Projects. Fiona, coming back to you on the issue of sustainability, environmental impact assessments, and what is happening in the rural areas. We tend to focus and concentrate on Kampala when we're talking about impact assessments, when we're talking about the impact of environmental degradation, but there's actually a lot happening out in the rural areas because there's more development happening now, even in the new cities that have been gazetted recently. Does NEMA, or do you, as your organization, as your group, have a strategy or an initiative to sensitize and address the rural communities about the impacts and the consequences of environmental degradation, with specific examples to deforestation, for example, poor methods of farming, usage of water, and things like that?
Thank you. That is very correct. The impacts of environmental degradation are not specific to a certain region or area. They cut across. And when you look at statistics currently, local households use 80% of wood as their energy source. So there's need to target them to have this information. Of course, government rolled out energy saving projects with the support of World Bank, but there's more. There's need to educate the locals to know. Everyone needs to know this information. Sometimes people don't get to know. People in the villages are putting up projects, minor approvals, plans are not submitted, and the investors are also not targeting rural areas. And I think it goes back to planning. How can the government plan, have a country plan, and people know which probably zoning would help, even in construction, in the real estate. They would zone certain areas and then they say, before this area gets built up completely, they shouldn't open up new areas. And back to the issue of housing, affordable housing. If you look at affordable housing, definitely it helps in saving the environment. You're not using too much raw materials. You're using technology to create housing with minimum impacts. But there's need for more awareness. There's still lack of knowledge. People are not aware. The government woke up and stopped charcoal burning, and there's no alternative. So we need to eat, that's a fact. Besides of you stopping charcoal, if there's no alternative, trees are going to be cut. If you look at the tree cover that is lost every year, it's at 1%. We lose tree cover every day. Forests are being cut down for timber, for sand. Sand is being mined in forest reserves. So, and the population is not going anywhere. We have improved healthcare and medicine, personal hygiene. Population is going to keep growing. So we need strategies. And the fact that we can not stop population, we need to see how best we can use the resources in a very efficient way, so that we use resources and the same resources are left here for the future generations. We need more awareness, we need government campaigns, we need individual responsibilities. It's a concerted effort.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a very valid point. My next question is to Edgar. We know that the housing sector comprises various institutions, government entities, and other stakeholders for it to function effectively. The planners need your data, as do the Ministry of Lands, as does local government. I get the impression that they work in silos and they don't actually speak to one another, or either that or the data is not disseminated to the other government entities and the bodies that need it. Is there collaboration between yourselves? Does your data, is it shared amongst the other government entities that need it? Because it doesn't seem to be, if it were, then I think we would be having different results coming out in terms of planning, where to plan, which are the next growth suburbs, which are the next residential suburbs or the next neighborhoods, and how we should plan accordingly. Or do you have your statisticians working closely or even implanted in these entities or government bodies to inform them of their decisions?
I can confirm and reaffirm the fact that UBOS works closely with all government entities, ministries, departments, agencies, civil society, academia, businesses, because they are all part of the national statistical system. UBOS is supposed to maintain, supervise, and regulate that system. So we would have failed on our mandate if we do not collaborate with all those players that I have mentioned. I'll give you an example of the inflation figures that we produce, the residential property price index. We share it with the stakeholders, basically or majorly for policy. The Bank of Uganda, the Ministry of Finance are key, because you see, if inflation goes up, then they have to have a tightened monetary policy. If it's down, maybe they have to relax a little bit. So this decision or these policies cannot be made if they do not have these inflation numbers. And like I've mentioned earlier, we are working with the Ministry of Lands to have the other indicator under Goal 11 of the SDGs addressed. So it is important and paramount to us. We know how useful it is to be able to collaborate with all these institutions. We are talking of administrative data lately to supplement the traditional, the surveys and censuses that we do. We will not be able to get administrative data if we are not collaborating with local governments, with other ministries and departments. So it is key and it is correct and true that UBOS is indeed collaborating with other players in the statistical system.
But do you feel that there's a way that the private sector can work closer with you to inform you? Because we're the ones on the ground. So it might be a useful idea for us to inform you what is required, what information is required. Because from where we're sitting, we really don't have a lot of visibility on what is going on. And it's very difficult to even access or know where to get that data from, to be able to advise on the planning for the real estate sector.
I do agree with you, and that's why one of our avenues of highly engaging with the private sector is creating some advocacy and awareness. We're having media breakfast organized so that we engage with the private sector more. And also it is important for us to inform the private sector on their importance, especially contribution to quality statistics. For example, Knight Frank, I know you might be having data on commercial properties and the prices, and residential properties. We might be limited in that area. We need Knight Frank to come on board. We need Area Uganda, the Association of Real Estate Agents, to come on board so that we have sufficient information or data for us to be able to give quality statistics that in time will help the private players in planning and investment.
Thank you very much, Edgar. But please also keep updating your data. A lot of the data that we research is really quite old and outdated, and it doesn't help us very much.
Maybe you might have to give me an example of information that we have that is outdated.
Various. When is the next census being done?
We hope August this year.
Yeah, you see, so now we have to rely on the 2014.
Yeah, you see, it's we follow international set practices, standards and practices. National population and housing censuses should take place every after 10 years. So it's a set rule. We cannot work against it. Though we have projected numbers, we do project.
Yeah, would be good.
Like I mentioned, as of today, we have population projected at 45.5.
This brings me to the end of our second segment of this show, a conversation on population growth and its impact on the real estate sector. But before we close, I would like to take some parting shots from my panelists who have done an excellent job today. Thank you very much for a very deep and meaningful conversation. Fiona, I'll start with you. Do you have any parting shots on our conversation?
Thank you so much. And I think we need to look at, because we have all agreed population is not going anywhere, it keeps increasing. As real estate, I think they need to adopt green building concepts. These have been adopted everywhere in the world. The green rating of buildings. This puts real estate at a better. There are many benefits of having your structure green rated or adopting green building concepts. There's the Green Building Council Uganda, where they work with South Africa to rate buildings, and the design looks at energy saving, waste management, runoff management, and water saving. I think the future is in green building.
Thank you, Fiona.
You're
Edgar?
welcome.
Yes, I will end by calling upon real estate agents, property developers, and whoever is in that kind of line of business to embrace our call and give us this information that we always require or ask from you. Please know that this information is highly confidential. We will not publish anything outside our jurisdiction, but as you can see, there is demand for quality statistics in the country and in the real estate sector in particular.
Mr. Kamjisha, over to you.
Yeah, my concern on my last message is that I'm saying that the environmentalists, let them push for a collaboration with the Department of Physical Planning to make sure there is what we call a master physical development plan, where zoning is done to a certain area for residential, an area for the industrial park, another one for a commercial center, another one for, so that there is a coordination that is very so that we developers, it becomes very easy for us to be able to put our decisions based on what has been zoned.
And from me, really, my parting shots are two. The first one is an appeal to private developers and to all stakeholders in the built environment. It starts with us. Environmental degradation is real. Real estate contributes 40% of all carbon emissions in the environment. So really, I think we need to take it upon ourselves, and it starts with us to give the right advice to clients, to give the right advice to developers, to make sure that we're cutting down as much as we can on the carbon emissions that are being put out by buildings. And that starts with how we are advising investors or developers to build. Architects, engineers, surveyors, structural engineers, quantity surveyors, everybody involved in that development cycle needs to play their part in making sure that we're putting out sustainable buildings. The second one is an appeal to government. It is very expensive to build sustainably. It is very expensive to try and contribute towards cutting on carbon emissions. So please, we ask you to incentivize us, to give us subsidies, and encourage us to try and do green building and cut down on the carbon emissions that are being put out by the buildings that we're building. So if you can incentivize us and have as many subsidies as you can for developers who are going ahead to try and contribute towards decarbonizing the built environment, it will be very good. Thank you very much, viewers. And it's been a pleasure hosting you panelists. Thank you very much indeed. And that's it from Property Lane today.